You! Hey, you! Get on over here! The Sergeant Grizzle Grits' Pinball Time Machine show is about to begin. You better get your butt over here now. It's Sergeant Major Grizzle Grits. I'm in my workshop, everybody. I'm just so excited today. Look, everybody. Today we got a new Gottlieb. It's a Gottlieb, friends. I have no idea. Why it's named that, friends, but it's my premiere. Check it out, everybody. Today we're going to be doing what's called the grounding modification on the machine over here. Friends, we did a lot of research. Hold on, everybody. Friends, we did a lot of research on this piece of equipment here. This is a 1986. It's a Genesis, friends. Hold on, let me show you. Friends, we got the machine taken apart because we just picked it up the other day. And we're restoring it, friends. This is the Genesis. Pretty cool, huh? 1986. Put that back over yonder. Now look, friends, you're going to be joining me because we're going to be putting this thing back together. Now, friends, it turned on and a little bit of the lights and the bumpers and things work. But, friends, there's a grounding issue with these things. And when we purchased the machine, it was missing the grounding from the three-prong plug that goes in the wall, everyone. But look, we went ahead and made our diagram. We were on the internet earlier, friends. And, friends, I told you I'm a very simple man. So, look, I had to spell it all out. Because, friends, I need to know what the heck I'm looking at in there. Friends, I am a smart guy, but I just don't know these electronics like some of y'all do. But, look, friends, I got all the fuses, and we're going to go through it today, friends. Now, friends, I already went through this the other day and I checked all the fuses, and they were good, but I got to make sure that they're the right amps and make sure they're all slow burns. Friends, these things are very, very, very sensitive, and if we don't have the right parts and fuses in it, well, it might not work right. But, friends, speaking of the grounding issue, friends, the way these things were designed, this was the grounding. All the grounds from the pinball. All the friends, this thing has AC and DC in it, friends. I told you, these machines are very complex, but they're not, friends, if you can understand these things, and we're going to try. But look, friends, this right here is where all the plugs, well, they all attach to, friends, and we're going to show you here in a moment. But what we learned in our research is this was a weak point in the design back in the 80s. Put that over there. So, friends, I'll give you a little tour of the machine here. Friends, we got the play area. The play area is up. But look, everybody, today we're doing the grounding mod. Friends, those little things I showed you, they hook into this is the transformer, friends. The power comes in and then it converts it to what it needs to. And friends, I believe these are the relays, and we did a class on that the other day. Friends, the relays turn the electricity. I could be wrong, friends, but what I learned is you got alternate current coming in from the wall, friends, AC, it's 110 volts. Comes in, friends. And then it comes to the transformer, and the transformer here converts it, friends. And these little things here, I believe, are the relays. I believe, friends, are rectifiers, friends, rectifiers. Correction, friends, I believe these are the rectifiers. You got 3 of them on here, and that's what converts it to the DC. And it's direct current, friends. DC just goes one way, just like a battery. And the alternate goes both ways, friends. But check it out. So what we're doing today, I already got the wires cut, and we gotta strip them, and then we gotta put them in a wire nut, friends. And then we're gonna actually ground them straight to this thing. That's what the mod kit's all about. Now look, friends, we've done a pretty good exam. Friends, I've searched this whole board, and I haven't found any burnt. I haven't really found any issues, friends. I mean, the play field looks real clean, real clean. But friends, we're going to do the mod, and we're going to see if that fixes it. Everything else looks pretty good. All the lights seem to work. I don't have any blown lights. But friends, back here there was another grounding issue, and we put an extra wire from this board to the other. Hold on, I got my diagram. Let me tell you which boards they are. Friends, the board over here, this is your driver board, and over here, this is your computer chip. That's the control board, friends. And then, friends, over to the right here is the reset board, friends. We had to go look all this up. And then, friends, up top there, you got your auxiliary power. auxiliary power, and then this thing's another power. And then, friends, over there, that far one, well, friends, I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm not real certain what that is. But, friends, the light works. There's no burn. I don't see any, friends, I can't visually see any issues with anything here. But what I learned was these machines, this year, friends, check out, you can't see the gameplay. Hold on, everybody. Friends, what we did in our research, we found out that these machines from 1980, friends, I'm sorry, friends, I'm not a Trump guy. I need to take those down. Hold on, everybody. Friends, I voted for Mr. Trump, and I can't wait to vote for him for a fourth time, but I don't worship the man. That stuff's been hanging up there for a long time. So look, friends, today we're going to be doing the grounding modification on these machines because they had a weak spot back in 1980s when they were designing these. For some reason, they thought that this would be a really good solution to the grounding. But friends, it was for a while. But this did not survive the test of time, friends. Friends, it's like a little piece of I don't know, card. It's just like a particle board, and then it has all this like aluminum on it, friends. But this is one of the weak spots. And friends, if this machine doesn't get a proper ground, well, from everything that we learn and what it's actually doing, it ain't gonna get the job done, friends. Friends, this machine, if it ain't grounded properly, it's gonna be like all those folks in my lawsuit. They didn't get the job done, friends, and that's why they're not with the government any longer. So, look, friends, we're gonna get to work on this. So y'all just chill out and just watch us get to work, friends. Just let us handle it from here. All right, let's go. Corporal Stevens. All right, friends. Friends, I don't drink alcohol no longer, friends. The Lord removed it out of me. But I love my grandma water seltzers. That's right, friends. Grandma used to drink these. That was my ex-grandmother-in-law, friends. She was a cool lady. All right. Okay, friends, we're gonna get to work. Now, friends, I told you, I already pre-cut these, friends. Oh, we already threw them in the garbage. But they were just another connector like this. And we heard that these connectors go bad too. So, friends, all these are the grounds. We got 4 of them. I got 3 on this harness, and I got another one down in here, and I've already stripped it. So, friends, without further ado, let me see. my cheap Ace Hardware strippers. Let's see if this works. The man said you want to get 2 inches, friends. You want at least 2 inches. Hold on, let's see if we can turn this so y'all can see what we're doing here. All right, friends, there we are. Okay. Friends, I hope you're having a good day. We're down here in the grizzly side. We're in the workshop, friends. Of course, these things aren't going to work right. Friends, I need to buy some real tools, you know. Yeah, these aren't getting the job done like we need to. Alright, okay, there's one. Friends, I even sharpened these and they're still not doing it right. Garbage. Let's go old school way. There we are. It'll just take a little longer. Friends, they say you want about 2 inches on it. And friends, what we're going to do is we're going to twist them all together. We're going to put them on a wire nut, and we're going to screw it right into the side of the metal thing that holds the ballast in there. It's the ground, friends. They say it's called bulletproof in your pinball machine. And I agree, friends, you know. All right. Hold on here. There we go. Hey, friends, my neighbor, friends, we in our Bible, friends, if you don't know, this is the Pinball channel, friends. This is the Pinball time machine. But friends, I also have a ministry. And we do Bible studies, friends. We do Bible studies every Monday through Friday. 900 hours, friends. You better get your butts there. But friends, check it out. We've been doing a prayer request, everybody. I've been doing a prayer request. Friends, my neighbor across the street, Mr. Shannon, he's got his home for sale, friends. Who wants to be Sergeant Grizzle Grits' neighbor? Oh, friends, check it out, friends, check it out. Friends, we've been praying in the Bible study. We've been praying for my neighbor Shannon. And guess what, friends? Hey! Guess what, friends? I got some folks looking at the home right now, friends. I told you we've been praying, and they look righteous, friends. Because I told you the man drove up in a work truck, so I know he's a good, hard-working man. Friends, you gotta be a good, hard-working man to live in my neighborhood. We do live in mansions, friends, but friends, it's not about the earthly things. Just the Lord blessed me, friends. He did. He bestowed all these gifts upon me. And friends, I wasn't always humble. Friends, one of the part of my humbling was I had to learn to get humble. Friends, I used to say I did all this. I got this house. I bought my truck. I got far in my military career. But friends, I didn't do it. I didn't do nothing, friends. The Lord did it all. Uh-oh, come on now. Uh-oh. Oh, come on. All right, there we are. But friends, I got some folks looking at the home, friends. And look, friends, we've been praying for Meemaw's foot for like the last 2 months. And friends, her foot's all healed up. She's getting back to work. And friends, we've been praying for my neighbor Shannon. He really needs to sell the home, friends. I mean, friends, it's a really tragic. It's a tragedy, friends. It's horrible what happened to that guy. I don't want to get in his business, friends, but he had to sell the home. And friends, it was nothing that he did. His wife passed away, and her mom, the mother-in-law, friends, it was horrible what happened to this family. All within a matter of like 3 months, friends. That's why you must get righteous, friends. We never know. We just never know. But friends, my buddy, my neighbor Shannon, my good friend, well, he needs to sell that home, friends. That home's like, friends, that's a $700,000 home. And he could really use the funds, everybody. I certainly hope they like it, friends. I certainly do. I'd love to have some good neighbors. All right, friends, look. Oh, we got one more to do. Oh, friends, I hope you can see what we're doing here. Look, friends, we're doing this. Here, let's see if we can... Oh, y'all can see. All right, friends, we just got a couple more to go. But you want to get about 2 inches, everybody. Friends, I gotta use the climbs because these other ones are, I don't know, they're not getting the job done. And friends, you can do this if you're careful. You don't want to break too many of the, wires. Because you need all the wires, friends. That's where you're gonna get your proper grounding. Now, friends, if you don't have a proper ground, then the machine ain't gonna work the way it's designed. And that was the main issue with these models. Oh, come on, there we are. Because of that part I just showed you. Now, friends, this is our second pinball machine. We got the Williams Comet, friends. That's the same one my father owned when I was a child. Now, friends, that thing works, but it does, friends. It needs just a little more TLC. I got a little wire loose somewhere. The audio is kind of farting in and out, friends. And if I jiggle the volume cord, then it seems to get the job done, everyone. But, friends, I got a general illumination wire. It's coming off the transformer. And it goes up to the power board, friends, and it's heating up, friends. It's heating up. It almost caught on fire like a couple weeks ago. So, friends, I don't know. I think the board might be bad because it has to be a transistor or a capacitor or something ain't working. So it's allowing all the juice to flow where it's not supposed to. All right, friends, let's take a look at this. Oh, we got 2 more. 2 more. Friends, if you like the channel, friends, please, I could use a like and I could use a subscribe, friends. Friends, this channel, I'm going to try to keep it strictly to the pinball machine. I don't want to talk about my lawsuit, friends. That's what the SergeantGrizzleGrits.com, that's what that website is all about. And friends, we don't have a YouTube channel, not one that we're allowed to get on anymore, friends, because YouTube, well, they took it away from us. But that's okay, friends. That's all right. You know. Now, friends, what you want to do is you want to get yourself some, we got the 14 gauge right here. And what we're going to do, everybody, come on over here. I'll show you what we're going to be about doing here. Okay, everyone. I'm trying to... Here we go. There, There, friends, now you can see kind of what we're up to. So, friends, we stripped all the wires, right? So now, I hope we can see this. All right, friends, if I keep it right about here. So, look, friends, here's what we got to do. We're going to take the 14 gauge. And, friends, you don't need much. You just need a little bit. We'll hang on to that. You know, maybe about this much. I think that'll be plenty. But you're going to need 3 of them, friends. You're going to need 3. 2. Yeah, that's about the same size. All right, friends, put that down there. Friends, you always want to keep a nice, neat workstation. I'm sorry about the sniffles, everybody. I was around the open burn pits for the last thing of time. All right, now, friends, now. Now, friends, I got the yellow and the red. But, friends, if we need the blues, I picked up some blues just in case. But I'll tell you what I do need. Friends, you're going to need one of these. Because I told you what we're doing is... Hold on here. Maybe I can sit down here and we can all... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Whoa. Okay, friends. Check it out. Can everybody see? Oh, my goodness. The sneaking camera. All right, friends. Look, here's what we're doing here. Again, we got to strip both ends of this one, friends. Both ends. Hey, friends, here's another trick, friends. Here's another Sergeant Grizzle Grits pro tip. Friends, hey, friends, hear me loud and clear. Before you get in any of these machines, friends, before you dig into anything, friends, you must video record it and take pictures, friends. Friends, you must video record this and take pictures. That way you know how it goes back together, friends. Truly, friends. We live in the day and age that's all easy because we got the cell phones. Again, friends, you want about 2 inches, and we're going to do, well, we don't quite need 2 inches on this side because we're putting the eyelet on it. But, friends, I took pictures of this last night because I don't want to... Friends, I don't want to blow this machine up because I hooked the wire the wrong way. Alrighty. I think this one will work. And friends, all we're going to do is we're just going to screw it right back into the old screw, into the side there. Here we are. Oh yeah, buddy. Okay, everyone, I got the screw. So look, friends, we're going to use this thing for this one. Alright, friends. We're going to take the eyelet, friends. We're going to just stick it right on in. But, friends, you want to use your fingers and you want to make it nice. And then you're just going to stick it right on in there, friends. Friends, and if we do it right, it'll look just like that. Now, friends, oh, hold on. I got one straggler. Oh, give me a break. Come on now. Alright, friends. We're just going to stick it right in here. Kind of ease it in. Ease on in there. Oh, my goodness. Why are you being difficult now? Friends, when it comes to these things, I do try to be somewhat of a perfectionist because I don't want to come back and do this later. I just want to get this thing working so I can go play it with my children. Alright, friends. There we are. Alright, friends. Now we're going to take this guy. That's the wire cutter. Which one is it here? Is it this one? Oh, we're 14. All right, friends. I'm learning how to use all these tools. Good grief. Oh, my goodness, friends. Give me a break here. Friends, hold on. I must clear my nose. Friends, I told you those open burn pits weren't no joke, friends. I mean, they had us in the war. They had us breathing all this horrible, horrible toxins, friends. And then we come home and we just want a little bit of benefits. And then, they want to sweat us for that. That's okay, friends. Here we are. Yeah, there we go. That's a good crimp, friends. Look at that. That's a good crimp right there. Friends, that's why you must use this tool. I had to pull it out of the trash can. Friends, just give it a little tug. Because, friends, this is the ground. You want to make sure that all the ground is grounded. Friends, if you got a little, if it ain't got a good connection, it's not going to get a solid ground, friends. Friends, it's kind of like when we were setting up the OE-254, friends. The OE-254 antenna, the military. Friends, you had to get your ground out. All right, where'd the wires go? Okay, here we are, friends. So look, everybody, it's too easy. We got four harnesses here. So friends, what it told us to do is we're gonna take these right here, friends, and we're gonna combine them all together, friends. That's what we gotta do. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to use that big wire nut. Now, friends, you wanna make sure that they're all kind of around the same area here, you know. Yeah, it looks good. And then you're just gonna twist them, friends. Twist them with your fingers. Twist them with your fingers. Yeah, we're definitely gonna use the big blue one. Hold on, everybody. Just open it up. 1, 2, 3. And look, friends, we're going to put all the rest in here. That way we know where they are for the next pinball machine that we got to do this to. Friends, I'm having so much fun with these things. And friends, friends, we paid $1,000 for this one. I know that's a lot of money, friends. That's a stinking lot of money. But friends, I told you, we got the ministry, everyone. And this is a part of it. So look, friends, we're just going to twist all these together. And then you're going to put the big blue on it, friends. And then you're just going to twist it as hard as you can, friends. Hard. There we go. Yeah. There we go, friends. Give it a tug. All right, friends. There's one right there. Uno Maruno. Now, look, friends, it's just too stinking easy. You take your little screw. You go put it in the little eyelet, friends. But, friends, before we do that, we're going to do the other one. I got one, friends. Now I got to do this one. Friends, I want to make sure that everything's going to fit. I don't want to do something and it don't work, friends. So look, we're going to put this back over yonder. We're going to hook this up to there. So, friends, this is going to sit here like this. Oh, perfectly. You see, friends, how they're lining up? Friends, I took a picture of everything in here before I did anything, friends. I learned a lesson a long time ago. That'd be good. So look, friends, we're just gonna do the same thing with the other one here. I know, friends. Friends, I think no. Just leave me alone. You know, I told you these things don't work. Okay, here we are. We'll do a little longer on this end because we need the 2 inches, friends. 2 inches. Friends, I like to just give it a little twist. That way it makes it a little easier. But look over here, friends. I'm just gonna cut a little bit off, friends. I told you we're going in an eyelet. We only need about that much. Now, friends, I sharpened up my clines, friends. I got a little tool. Let me just show you, friends. It's really neat. Friends, I bought this for the sign shop, friends, when I was making the signs. And, friends, the laser engraver's right over there. But look, friends, this is perfect for the pinball. Friends, when I bought this, one of the, y'all can't see it. Friends, when I bought this thing, one of the flippers were not working. But all it needed was just the contacts needed to be cleaned, friends. Friends, that's okay, you know. I'm not mad at the folks that sold it to me. Yeah, they didn't know these things. And it does sort of work a little bit, friends. Uh-oh. All right, can everybody see? Friends, I'm trying to get you in here so you can see what the heck we're doing. Move that little door there. Okay, friends, can everybody see now? Okay, good. So look, everybody. Get you one of these and you can sharpen your tools up. Because, friends, you want to make good cuts. Just that easy, friends. Oh, are these the ones I cut the hot wire with? Friends, when you cut a hot wire, you know, when it's live, it'll burn a hole in one of these things. All right, friends, all right, we're good to go there. Okay, friends, so this one's going to be... All right, that one's done. This one's going to be a little difficult, friends, down here because I don't have a lot of room to work. So I'm going to cut this little wire. I'm going to cut this. Get rid of that. Friends, I don't like trash in here. If you can get the trash, don't let it in there. Can y'all see? All right, friends, so we got to do it here. These are all the ground, friends. These are all the ground. The white wires are the ground. So we're going to take our time here and just get this done as easily and gingerly as we can, friends. Friends, if I make a mistake here, I don't have a lot of room. Oh, friends, should I go introduce myself to my new neighbors? I hope they like the place. I'll be like, look, oh, y'all are in for a treat. You get to be my neighbor. Help me work on this pinball machine. I'll let you come over and play it. I'm kidding, friends. Y'all can come over and play anytime you'd like. Just as long as I'm in a good mood and, you know, I got nothing to do. All right, friends, we're getting there. We're getting there very slowly, friends. I told you, we don't, friends, I take all the trash. It goes in the trash can. Oh, friends, I might go introduce myself to these people. I say, look, I'll give you a special shout out in my Bible study program if you buy the home. That way another prayer can be answered. Friends, we've been praying to Jesus, and he's been listening, friends, and friends, Jesus has a to-do list too, and he's knocking all them prayer requests out, friends, and it's really cool. Because they're righteous prayers, friends. They're righteous, and the people that we're praying for, well, they're righteous too. So, friends, you know the Lord's going to do his thing. Oh, it is a gorgeous home, friends. Truly it is. But, friends, I can't show you for safety reasons. I can't have the enemies out here bothering me. Friends, I got to dig some more holes for y'all. I told you, friends. We had a doozy of a night, friends. We had some folks lingering around the fire base a little late, friends. And the Halloween trick-or-treating should have been done hours ago. But, friends, you know, I told you. I just sprinkled a little dirt, friends. A little dirt over them. Evenly, friends. Very gingerly and evenly. And, friends, and then I said a couple nice words. Then I went back to, getting my pinball machine working. I ain't got time for that ruckus, friends. I just ain't got no time for that stuff. All right, friends, there we are. Oh, that was really easy. Okay, friends, so here we are. These are all the grounds. So again, friends, we're just going to twist them all together here. Twist them all together. And friends, before we do that, we must, friends. I'm sorry, friends. We must put the eyelid on, everyone. Put this one here. All right, everybody. So again, friends, you're going to take the eyelid. You're going to do, friends, if you do this right, friends, you want all the strands of the wire, friends. You want it to go in here. Just like so, friends. There we are. Look, friends, if you do it right, you'll have just a little bit sticking out of the top. And then, friends, then and only then you take these out, friends. Don't you dare let me catch y'all using these cheap ones to cut your wire. And strip it, friends. But look, you want to go right here. Friends, we're on the blue, the middle one. This is a 14 gauge. So look, friends, we're just going to crimp it down. Friends, you want to check before you crimp. You want to make sure that wire didn't slip, friends. Just give it a good old crimp. Too easy, everybody. Too stinking easy. Now look, friends, they told me that you need at least 2 inches on the end here. And we got 2 inches and 2 inches. So, friends, you know the rules. We're going to twist it and twist it. Oh, there's my neighbor friend. Maybe he'll want to come play some pinball later. Friends, I don't know. Friends. This one, I think I'm going to need the red one on this one. Oh, no, friends. I told you, friends. I ain't paying attention. Now, look, friends, we got to do all these together. That's why we need the big blue one. So, friends, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to undo them all, friends. Friends, it's like shuffling a deck of cards, everybody. You want them all in there. So, friends, we're just going to twist and twist. And, friends, if you want to get really groovy, you take these clines and you just grab them and you twist them, friends. You twist them, but don't twist them too hard. You can break the wires. So, friends, you want to get them nice. Friends, it's like petting a cat. You're just going to keep doing this. You're petting the kitty's head. Meow, meow, meow. And he loves it, friends, but he don't like you petting him during the daytime. I don't know. He's a weirdo. Friends, don't you forget the red wire. You must have the red wire in there. We're going to twist and twist. Good grief, give me another twist, Corporal Stevens. Oh, yeah. Friends, don't you dare let me catch y'all soldering these together. Friends, Mr. Todd at the Pinball channel that I subscribed to recently, I told you this guy's the real deal, friends. But this guy's got a lot of knuckleheads working for him. I would have fired these guys' butts, friends. Now, I'm literally trying to watch the man's videos, and I'm trying to learn. And these men just want to be perverted and sex jokes, friends. And I had to get through it, friends, because Mr. Todd's very knowledgeable. I mean, the man's like, the pinball, he knows how to work on all these. And he's been doing it for a very long time. All right, everybody, let's do this. So I got my 2 screws. Now, friends, these are the same screws that came off the, let's just bring the parts over here. Friends, let me tell you again for the last time. This is what we did. We replaced the ground. This is what the ground used to look like. All those wires that we cut, they were plugged into here, and then they were hooked to down here, the metal. And all the yellow. Friends, all the yellow is the ground wires. It goes out through the whole system. Because, friends, we can't have people getting electrocuted just trying to have a little fun. So, friends, we took these, and we turned them into these. And, friends, literally, the guy says it takes 15 minutes, and it'll literally solve probably all your problems. Friends, I would not be shocked if I turn this machine on and everything works. But if it don't, friends, that's okay, too, This is a journey, and y'all are along for the ride. Okay, friends, now friends, listen to me very, very clearly. Friends, you get yourself, it's a quarter inch driver, friends. Just make sure it's the right one. There you go, everybody. Friends, I know it's the adapter, and these are very soft, friends, and only do this. If you gotta tighten something down, friends, you must use a bit, but you can get away with it with these. But look, friends, too easy. We're gonna find one of them holes. Okay. There's one right there. Friends, find that hole. Get this in there, and then you'll be grounded, friends. You'll be grounded. You're grounded. You can't go nowhere. Uh-oh. Come on now. Come on now. Get on in there. Friends, I don't know what's going on here. I ain't got no room. Oh, here we are. Now, friends, be careful, because I'm moving wires, and I don't want the wires to come on. Oh, whoa. Friends. I almost forgot the most important part. Now, friends, Mr. Todd, on Todd's Tips, he explained that you gotta take a little sandpaper. He had a fiberglass eraser, friends, but I'm not as fancy as Mr. Todd's. I'm gonna take a piece of some pretty rough sandpaper. And friends, you wanna rough up the area. You wanna get any paint or corrosion off that area, friends, because you want a solid connection. Friends, we ain't got no time for no non-grounding here. This is the Grizzly Army Arcade. Friends, I didn't tell y'all. Friends, I'm gonna make an arcade. It's gonna be the most righteous arcade, friends. You already know it. Friends, we got 2 pinball machines for our arcade. Oh yeah. Alright, I think that's good. Friends, you just want to get all that corrosion off. Look at that. Alright, now we can put the wire back on there. Now, friends, here we go. Let's see, let's do it this way. Okay. There we go. Alright, friends, this is very, very... Oh, friends, my body doesn't... Friends, I don't think my body's supposed to be turning like this, but we must get this screw in there. Alright. Careful with the wires. Now we're going to tighten it down, friends. You want to get this one tight, friends, because this is where the connection's going to be made. If it's loose, it ain't going to have a good ground. And then all this work will be for nothing. It'll be just as bad as it was before. But not too tight, friends. Alright, that's tight, friends. That's in there. So look, we're going to go back and just double check, make sure nothing came loose. And then, friends, we're going to do it to our second wire. We already did the sanding, so we're going to stick it on in there. And now, friends, we're going to screw it in tight. Friends, I told you, this is my new hobby, you know. Friends, in my drinking days, I was in motorcycle clubs. I had a boat, friends. I had a really cool boat. All right, hold on, friends. Not too tight. I don't want to break nothing, but, friends, that's pretty daggone tight. Okay, that's tight. We're going to just double check everything. Friends, you can go back and check these connectors. But we're tight here. And we're tight there, friends. So just put these wires down so they're out of the way. Good grief, friends. You know, I think I just lost the whole video. I certainly hope not. Look, friends, I'm trying to show you what we did here. This camera. Hold on, everybody. Good grief. All right, look, friends. Here's what we did. We did the grounding mod. We took the old ones out, friends. These were notorious for failing and not getting a proper ground. I mean, look at it, friends. This is a piece of like particle board, and they got some aluminum. So, friends, we did the grounding mod. And we're gonna see, friends. We're gonna see if this thing will turn on. I don't know. Hold on, everybody. Let me just reposition the camera. We're gonna turn off again. Okay, can y'all see it? Okay, there we are. Friends, it's the Gottlieb. The Gottlieb, friends. It's the Genesis, friends. That's right, friends. We're putting this pinball machine all back together quick, fast, in a hurry. So I need you to go ahead, like, share, and subscribe immediately to the Pinball Time Machine channel. All right, friends, that's going to do it for today. Come on back later on. We're going to have part 2 while we're going through the top part of the pinball machine. All right, everybody.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing.
Y'all stay groovy, and we'll talk to you soon. Crystal 6 out.